Fate. Fate is like a raging storm. It can sweep you away, or you can ride it. We are viceroys, elite settlers serving the Scorched Queen. Our job is to establish colonies and gather precious resources. Every settlement we build presents new challenges.
And we are back.
You're back.
Or rather, at least I'm back. But
So, how was Moscow?
Moscow was lovely. In fact, I kind of miss it already. We were having
have a meet the parents moment with Sasha?
well, there wasn't like a Robert De Niro situation, if that's what you're wondering. Like, I get along with her dad pretty well. We usually spend the day talking history and politics without any issue. Her mum is a different story, but...
Details, gimme.
Yeah, so like her deal is basically, this guy doesn't want to give us grandchildren, so you're just wasting your time with him, kind of thing. So yeah, that's something I have to work on, I guess.
Aw, that's a shame. Still, at least her mum is hot, right?
Holy smokes, what kind of an awesome sex life do you imagine I'm having here? Where there's like a menage a trois involving her mum?
Have you never heard the rule that if you want to date a woman, you're supposed to look at her mum?
Isn't that... I thought that was only if you were looking to get married.
No, it's definitely if you want to date them. If you want to marry them, you're supposed to look at their grandmother.
Ah, great, thanks. Like I needed more discouragement against getting married. Anyways, why don't we talk about video games? Specifically this one, since I believe you were the one that recommended Against the Storm to me. Am I correct on that?
You are correct. Which of course means...
What? That our friendship is over if I don't like your recommendation?
That's right.
Terrific.
So, what did you think?
It's definitely one of the more interesting base building games I've played over the years. There were definitely some bits that made me want to pull my hair out, which we can get into later, but for now let's start with the positives. So for those of you who are new, the whole point of this game is to establish a self-sufficient town in the wilds, and obviously you do this by consuming resources on the map. Now the challenge of the game is that as time goes by and more people move into your town, the forest becomes increasingly hostile towards you, which I'll demonstrate is based on, here. The amount of years that's gone by, as well as things like how many areas you've broken into and how big your population is, and also stuff like how many woodcutters you have. And what this all means is that during the stormy season, your villages are going to want to desert based on how high this hostility is. And so it's a bit of a balancing act in between trying to limit the amount of trees you chop down to not piss off Mother Nature, while also getting enough resources to stop your people from ditching you.
Right, exactly. Like, what this really is a resource management game. You're given a short amount of time to try and acquire a specific number of resources, and you do this by expanding your base. But out of curiosity, could you potentially walk me through your approach to this game? Because I'm a complete noob at this game and I only play on the lower difficulties.
Yeah, sure. Well, just for the record, I don't play on the hardest difficulty myself either. I tend to play around the middle. But regardless, what I like to do is to expand very quickly in the early stages of the game.
Is that why you put down 3 fully staffed lumber mills before even like harvesting food?
That's right. And the reason why I like to do that is because I'm interested in seeing what type of resources are available at my immediate proximity. And obviously you don't want to be too reckless in how you expand. Like you don't need to open any of these dangerous glades because you don't have the resources needed to tackle the challenges they pose. But the other big reason why I like to expand quickly is because you are on a clock, technically speaking. So really what you want is all hands on deck at the very start, just to maximize the number of resources you're gathering, especially during these calm periods.
Okay, I see what you're doing. That makes a lot of sense. So I'm guessing that when a storm arrives, your plan is to reallocate all your woodcutters to other jobs?
Exactly. Like right now I'm at level 2 hostility, and this is largely due to the fact that I have 9 woodcutters operating at the moment. That's generating a total of 144 negative points. But because this is one of the few parameters that we have direct control over, it makes perfect sense to try and mine as much wood as possible during these periods of calm. And when the storm does finally hit, you simply reassign all your woodcutters to do other jobs, like building houses or producing advanced goods for your town or your queen.
Damn, you make these things sound so simple.
It definitely sounds a lot simpler than it actually is in practice, because there's a lot of room for micromanagement, like how many workers you assign to a certain task or where to put your buildings. And in fact, speaking of buildings, let's actually take a look at what's available to us.
Actually, could you give me some tips on this bit of the game? Because I usually have trouble figuring out what I should be selecting.
Yeah, no worries. So there are 4 different things you want to be able to produce in the early game. planks, bricks, cloth, and metal bars. Now, ideally, what you're hoping for is that the start of the game will give you blueprints for buildings that can produce those goods efficiently. So for now, I'm going to pick the smelter because it allows me to make copper bars, but also training gear, which is going to benefit the lizard people in my community.
Okay, I can definitely follow that logic. So I'm guessing out of these 4 choices, you're gonna pick the lumber mill?
Yeah, I think the lumber mill is definitely the best choice among here. I mean, you can make an argument for the kill, but let's go with the lumber mill. You can never have enough lumber.
Right, so basically what you want is to have all those boxes tick, like have one building that can produce bricks, another that can produce lumber, etc, etc.
But that's actually quite rare. What happens most of the time is that you're often forced to pick the best among what you've got, which is still fine because you can always throw down a crude workstation to produce whatever goods you're missing, it's just at a much less efficient rate, or you can simply just buy whatever you're missing from traders. But ideally what you want is your economy to be able to produce these things locally and not rely on trade.
Okay. By the way, I see you're thinking of going for that time challenge.
Yeah, I'm just debating it now.
The rewards do look pretty good.
It is very tempting, I'm just not completely confident that I can achieve 25 resolve for my human population in 7.5 minutes. Like, they're 16 right now, but I can give them +4 by removing the hostilities, which will bring up to 20. I can provide them housing, which would give them another +3, but that's still 23 and 2 shy from 25. So unless I can get my hands on some porridge or some biscuits, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna fail this request.
Well, I mean, you could build a trading post and just hope a passing merchant happens to sell those items.
I don't know. Like, if it were a little later in the game where I was a bit more established, then I could potentially feel comfortable taking a risk.
What's it gonna be? Do you feel lucky?
No, I don't feel lucky. I think I'm gonna play it safe.
Boo! You're such a pussy. Nah, I'm kidding. I kid. In all seriousness, what you're doing is pretty smart.
Oh, I know. All my ideas are idiot-proof until they're not. In all seriousness, this is one of the many things I actually really appreciate about this game. Like, it rewards players who spend the time to make careful plans as opposed to those who just jump in and make hasty choices all the time.
Yeah, that's something that's becoming sadly rarer in the gaming world these days. Like, most modern games these days tend to prioritize chasing cheap dopamine highs over any strategic depth.
I'm looking at you, Claire Obscure.
By the way, you'll be a pretty good boss to work for. Honestly, you have like very tempered and sensible expectations.
Oh, I know about that.
It's true.
I feel like I'm the kind of person who at some point will have like a mental breakdown or just simply go
rubbish.
mad with...
You're like the most level-headed person I know. And trust me, I worked under a lot of bad bosses.
Huh. Out of curiosity, do you prefer like a male boss or like a female boss, or is there no difference?
I would personally feel a lot more comfortable working under a male boss than a lady boss.
Really?
Oh yeah, like women generally speaking have a much harder time dealing with stress than men in high pressure situations, and obviously I'd much rather work under somebody who can manage their own problems as opposed to someone who's prone to emotional outbursts.
Interesting. You know, come to think of it, back in uni, I did once have a very poor experience in a group project. Like, this girl made herself in charge of the group and basically had no idea how to resolve conflicts or even assert her own argument at times.
Wait, is this what I'm thinking of?
You definitely know this person. But anyways, basically the project ended up becoming a total dumpster fire because she just has like no leadership skills or any idea what she's doing.
Oh my god, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Like, don't get me wrong, she's a cool person to hang out with, just don't let her be in charge of others because she has like zero charisma.
Damn. Forget what I said earlier about you being a good boss. You make an even better gossip girl.
I think what you meant to say was prison snitch, but whatever, let's get back on topic. As I was saying earlier, this game is really made for those who enjoy things like logistics, base planning, and like resource management.
Yeah, and also for people who just enjoy micromanaging little details in their town, like making sure everyone is happy with their jobs or have all their needs met, you know, little things like that.
Well, that's another thing I liked about this game, how every species has something they're uniquely good at. Like, for example, humans are good at farming, lizards are good at hunting and gathering, your harpies are good at making clothing, and you have similar things for other species as well, like foxes, frogs, and beavers, etc. Though I don't work with beavers anymore. They never seem to like living in my town for some reason.
Yeah, they can be very hard to please.
Oh, tell me about it. All they do is just whine and complain about everything. It's too cold inside, everything's too wet, there's not enough wood, and once a month they lose their freaking minds and threaten to abandon town. Wow. You're such an asshole. It's the truth and you know it. Jokes aside, gamers like myself who back in the day played StarCraft really appreciated little things like how many workers were mining minerals versus Vespene gas because we were interested in optimizing our builds, and this game is basically that on steroids.
It's why I recommended it. Like, I know you StarCraft players and your weird obsession with efficiency. You just can't help yourselves, can you?
Oh god, we need help. It gets exponentially worse as we get older. But in all seriousness, this was a good recommendation by you.
Thanks!
You've actually done a pretty good job of recommending games to me over the years.
Oh yeah, I know exactly the kind of twisted stuff that would turn you on.
God dang it. Stay away from my browser history.
The world is plagued by the Blight Storm, a vile cycle of destruction ravaging everything in its path. The only safe haven is the smoldering city where the mysterious Scorched Queen reigns. You are one of her viceroys, a pioneer sent into the wilds, tasked with establishing new settlements and acquiring valuable resources for the crown. Your goal is to help rebuild the smoldering city and secure the future of the Queen's subjects.
Anyways, now that the honeymoon period is over, would you like to share your thoughts on the areas of the game that drove you insane?
Oh, sure. Did you have any other positives you want to add before we move on?
No, I think you pretty much covered all my talking points.
Okay, in that case, we can move on to the negatives. Just for the record, there isn't like a single big deal breaker for this game. It's really more of a collection of small little problems, which in accumulation can get under your skin, but we can go through it one at a time. But for starters, let's talk about the win condition. Because the game is designed in such a way that you're only there to set up the town, you don't actually ever get to see it grow into something bigger. Like, the game is over as soon as you fill up the reputation bar, at which point you're simply shoved along to start all over again building the next town. It just doesn't feel very rewarding, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it if you please.
Yeah, actually I'm glad you brought that up because that was something I found a little weird as well. Like most base building games, whether it be like your prison architect or your city skylines, tend to let you eventually build up into something like extravagant, whereas Against the Storm tends to keep its scopes rather narrow throughout its entire game, and as a result you never quite feel rewarded for all your effort.
You're just constantly starting over and over as opposed to building towards something bigger. Like, you and I both have similar critiques for They Are Billions for all its problems, but at least in that game you were building up your base's defenses to eventually repel a incoming zombie horde. Whereas here you're just never given the satisfaction of seeing your settlement succeed.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it also makes all the cosmetic items you unlock completely pointless. Like, am I really gonna bother decorating my town and making it look all nice and pretty when I'm just gonna start all over again?
Well, exactly. It just becomes another meaningless quota to fill. It's like, oh, I need 16 decorations to upgrade my hearth. It doesn't really matter how good it looks as it's just part of another routine checklist.
Yeah, as opposed to like something that players can use to decorate their towns to make it look more unique to them. But out of curiosity, how would you go about fixing this problem?
Well, I mean, for starters, you could just simply restart from scratch less often. So for example, if your first mission was to build a town from scratch, the second could be to upgrade it to like a city or even a fortress to hold off any potential threats.
Interesting.
And if we insist on keeping the win condition to just fulfilling orders by the queen, we could simply just introduce a new set of demands. So instead of having orders that require you to deliver 25 trade goods, for example, you could be tasked with building 5 defensive towers.
So wait, would that mean the game would have to introduce some kind of an enemy for you to fight?
Well, that's definitely one thing that could be done. Like, the game already has flamethrowers for your townfolk to use to fight against the Blight Rot, so I can't imagine it to be too difficult for the game to implement some kind of enemy for you to defend yourselves against. But even without that, you could still make it work. Like, there's no reason why you couldn't be tasked to build a defensive wall at a strategic position, or say train X amount of soldiers, or build a defensive railway connecting your city to the edge of the map. You know, anything to expand from the routine checklist of just filling resource quotas.
Okay, I think I see what you're going for. So what other parts of this game did you not like?
So I know it's been a while since you've played this game, but do you still remember the tech tree by any chance?
Are you talking about the upgrades you have to invest in when you return to the smoldering city?
Yep, that's the one. But do you remember how every single one of those upgrades were something along the lines of increase movement speed by 2% or decrease trade time by 10 seconds? You know, like little incremental changes that don't affect the core gameplay at all. Like, I'm personally not a big fan of this type of level design. I find it lazy and honestly a waste of a tech tree.
Okay.
But more than that, it acts as an excuse for the developer to not properly set up a sensible difficulty curve. curve, because you're effectively handing the keys to the players and saying, look, I don't know what these numbers are supposed to be, you figure it out on your own.
Well, to be fair, there were some other stuff in there, aside from the small incremental buffs you were talking about. Like, I know a small handful of them would at least unlock special housing for your townfolk, as an example.
True, but again, that's only a small few. The vast majority is still what I described. But even still, having an upgrade that makes special housing available at the start of the game isn't adding anything new. Like, you've had access to special housing even before the upgrade, so all you're effectively doing is saving me one blueprint choice. In a way, it's no different to any of the other incremental buffs, only this time it's start the game with 5 blueprint options instead of 4, except we get to pick one of them for you.
Okay, I can see where you're coming from. But how would you fix something like that?
Well, I see no reason why you couldn't just move the blueprint unlocks into the tech tree itself. Like, just sort them into tiers based on how productive they are, and then move them onto different tech branches. That way, the players can decide which one they want to go for in their playthrough.
Well, hold on. Doesn't that kind of defeat the whole point of a roguelike game, though?
Well, I mean, yes, it would. But to be fair, I'm kind of okay with that. Like, I'm pretty much over roguelike games at this point. The charm of constantly bashing my head against a wall hoping RNG's in my favor has kind of lost its magic with me, and I think deep down I would just simply prefer a more crafted experience.
But hold on, isn't that just your personal preferences? Like, there are people who do enjoy roguelike games because they see the RNG as an invitation to try and experiment with new things, and obviously this game is designed to appeal to that demographic. So wouldn't your suggestion completely undermine that?
Well, no. In fact, I would like to argue for the complete opposite, if I may.
Go on.
Like, think about it this way. If you have a branching tech tree where players have to invest a lot of points down a certain path just to get a playstyle going, then a creative player would just look at all the other available options that he didn't get to pick in this particular run as something to experiment with in a future run where he might try a completely different playstyle. Would you not agree?
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I would agree.
Then can you see how that's actually giving your players more room for creativity as opposed to having your players pick cards from a random pile, which more often than not just ends up with a jack of all trades strategy because they're trying to cover all their bases? Like, let's be honest, how many different viable playstyles do you actually see in this game?
Well, I mean, you get to choose from all sorts of different perks and buildings and...
Okay, but how does having different buildings translate to a new playstyle?
Well, the differences in...
Like, if the goal was to produce 25 planks of wood, does it matter if I'm producing it from a lumber mill instead of a carpenter? Like, how is that a different playstyle? Like, I'll give you an example. Take Tropico, for instance, which is another city building economic management kind of game.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Tropico.
But in that franchise, you could choose to run your city like a beautiful island paradise where everyone is happy, there are plenty of tourists, and all the other great powers like you. Or you can have your island be a 21st century penal colony that somehow has nuclear weapons, and you can still make it work. Like, that's what I mean by having a different playstyle, as opposed to a bunch of slightly different buildings that produce things at various rates of efficiency.
Well, why is having like a bad playstyle something you'd be interested in?
Oh, that's just something you wouldn't get, even if I told you.
Try me.
Because it makes my balls feel bigger. Happy?
Okay. Alright, that's something I definitely wouldn't understand. I will grant you that. In all fairness, there are features in the game that lean into what you're talking about. Like, I specifically remember a perk where some shady dealer will offer you 10 gold for every, or rather 10 amber for every person that leaves town. You know, little things like that.
Right, but you can't base an entire playstyle based off a little feature like that. I mean, it's not like you can turn your town into a human trafficking hub and win the game that way. Like, at the end of the day, the win condition is still the same. Deliver X amount of resources. And besides, it's not like you get a lot of feedback from your actions. Like, people are gonna leave your town regardless. The only difference this makes is that you get a little bit of extra money every time that happens. Like, what exactly is this shady dealer doing to those people that would make me think twice or even care?
He eats it. Does that change things for you?
Do you at least see my point though?
Yeah, I see what you mean, and you do bring up a good point in that this game does seem to lack different playstyles, which is especially a problem since this is a roguelike game where you're expected to replay it over and over again, and because the core gameplay never really changes that much, you do get bored of it eventually.
Right, exactly, because it's got no longevity or any replay value to speak of.
Yeah.
Like, if it had like an interesting progression curve instead of just tiny numerical buffs, or even just a compelling story for me to invest in, then we'd be in business. But unfortunately, this game just has none amount of that, which means that 20 hours in, you've pretty much seen everything this game has to offer.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because...
Granted that 20 hours of entertainment is still quite a lot of value, especially coming from an indie title, so not the biggest complaint, all things considered.
Right, but getting back to what you said earlier, like, the story was completely absent from this game. I mean, we have a very interesting world that's been set up for us, but there was just never any serious attempt to tell an actual story involving it, and I just don't understand.
There are little bits and pieces of lore that can be found in places like, say, the Glade events, which kind of hints that a previous civilization had brought ruin to both themselves and the world, and that either we're here to clean up their mess or potentially making the same mistakes they did. But beyond that, there was no central narrative that took advantage of any of the world building.
Right, that's what I mean, and you can't help but wonder why. I mean, surely it's not too difficult to create a plot where we slowly learn the origins of the Blightstorm and where it may all lead us. Maybe include a few twists and turns involving the queen and who she really is. Like, we effectively have a blank check when it comes to the creative side of things, so the sky's the limit.
Well, you have to keep in mind, this is an indie developer we're talking about, so it's quite possible that the team simply didn't have any writers. Like, who are the developers for this game?
I'll look it up since you're obviously busy.
I want to say they're Japanese because I'm pretty sure I heard someone speak Japanese in the game, but I could be wrong. Not that it matters anyway. But my point is, it might be worthwhile for this team to reach out to other developers in the area just to share some ideas or even just to look for inspiration from other sources. So long as those sources are not like Sweet Baby Inc. or Hideo Kojima.
Not a fan of Kojima, huh?
No, not really. Like, I know some people think he's a mad genius, but I think that's a very incorrect assessment of who he really is. Like, if you listen to his interviews, he comes across as somebody who just throws out ideas spontaneously without a plan and just expects the people working underneath him to follow it through without question. And what you're left with is an incoherent mess that's more reliant on shock value than anything of substance, as well as a budget that gets completely blown out of control because the crazy bastard just can't help but splurge on everything and won't take no for an answer.
Right.
Like, Hollywood celebrities love him because he pays them a crap ton of money to cameo in his games, but as far as the writing's concerned, he's about as talented as a dyslexic 6-year-old scribbling random words on the sides of a padded wall. Solid snake, Parker man.
Out of curiosity, who do you think has the worst writing in... Oh, by the way, these developers are from Poland.
Oh, well, there you go. There are plenty of people over there that can give some tips to these developers on how to write a proper story. Like CD Projekt Red, for example, has plenty of great writers.
Yeah, I agree.
What was the other question you had? I didn't quite catch it.
Oh, it's nothing. I was just wondering who you thought had the worst writing in video games.
Oh, geez, I mean, that's a bottomless pit with no end in sight. Did you want me to provide you a short list of specific people or like companies? Like, what did you have in mind?
Oh, any's fine. It's just a penny for your thoughts. Like, would Kojima be on the very bottom?
Well, I wouldn't say he's at the bottom, but he's very near the bottom. Like, I will still take one of his stories over anything from Ubisoft or Bethesda in the past decade. Like, ideally, I would prefer a well-written, thought-provoking story. But absent of that, then I guess it's better to be weird and confusing than dull and generic.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, why would you pay money to be bored, right? But where would you rank something like Sweet Baby Inc.?
Well, they're all just former Ubisoft employees anyway, so you can put them in the same category. Like, they both share the exact same problem in that they don't have any original ideas and instead rely on things like gender swapping or race swapping to compensate for the fact that they don't know how to write interesting characters.
Yeah, I agree.
They're not necessarily bad people or anything, they're just creatively bankrupt, and not the folks you turn to if you want original ideas.
Okay, well, thank you for humoring me. Sorry if I went a little off topic.
Oh, it's fine. Did you want to bring up anything else with regards to Against the Storm? If not, we can move on to our final thoughts.
No, I think you pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about, so I'm happy to move on. Like, all things considered, I don't really have a ton of complaints with this game. It basically just took a very simple idea and added as much detail as possible, which is something I can appreciate.
It's a game that scratches a very specific itch. It never tries to expand its scopes or tell you a story, which can be disappointing for some people who's expecting a more complete experience. But if all you're after is just a base building game with a lot of micromanagement, then this game does have quite a lot to offer you.
We adapt to changing conditions, and we're not afraid to experiment. Plans don't always go as expected, but we face the consequences head on. As we progress, We take on bolder challenges. Every time the Blightstorm ravages the world, we face new opportunities and new threats.
So, Kathy, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very impressive game in terms of its mechanics, and while it does have a steep learning curve as there's quite a lot of information to take in at the start of the game, it can get quite addictive once you've finally gotten your head in the game.
So, would you recommend it?
Yeah, I mean, I already recommended it to you, but I would also extend that to a general audience. How about you, Cheeky? Would you recommend it?
Absolutely. It's not perfect and there's a lot of room for improvement, but it's exactly the kind of game made for my kind of people.
What do you mean by your kind of people?
What do you mean by my kind of people?
Do you mean pandas?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Actually, they should consider adding pandas to the game.
Yeah, why not? I mean, they'll probably just sit around and eat bamboo all day without ever helping the town, but, you know, they're cute, so it's okay.
Is there like a colony sim game with like pandas? I know there's one for beavers, but I already explained to you why that society is doomed to fail.
What is... It's such a joke, by the way. Like, I suppose you could play Planet Zoo with only pandas and just let them run free and pretend they run the town or something, if that's what you have in mind.
Oh yeah, that could definitely work. Like I already did that with velociraptors in Jurassic World.
Oh dear God.
You're free now, little friends. Take over the park. Don't listen to Chris Pratt.
It's so twisted. Oh, wow. Still better than the movies, I must admit.